So where do you want to begin? From us, we recommend the network and security assessment. And this can be sort of a broad array of things, but what network and security assessment means in this context is identifying how your network is being used to support your district. How is internet being used to support your district? Who is connected to your internet? We have a thing called segmentation within networking. You want to have a way where those who are not a part of the district are connecting to your network or using your internet in one way with limited access, meaning limited exposure if something were to occur. You also have folks that are a part of the district that are using or having access to your internet in a different way, but there also needs to be a certain level of monitoring and isolation in order to make sure that if somebody, let's say from accounting, is breached, they can't just go and get into records as well. We've seen that for some districts where there is so much availability and access to different aspects of district networking, district internet, that if you're in accounting and you're breached, that person can go into personnel files, student records, medical records, and get access to everything. That shouldn't happen, but that is also an element of how is your network set up, how is internet provided and internet utilized across your district. And then of course your security assessment, you can do that in a few ways. You can utilize a deep tissue penetration test where it's trying to break through doors, quote unquote, and seeing what that would look like and how that would work. You can also do it in a way where it's very targeted, where you identify certain things that are critical or vulnerable, and you want to make sure that you can strengthen your defenses. But you can also do kind of a surface level attack as well, and just see, basically knocking on doors, lifting up windows in a proverbial sense. What is exposed and how do I make sure that I reduce any exposure, at least from the outside looking in? I don't want to look like an easy target to anybody that's just passing by, so to speak. We're looking here at trying to determine, how are you going to catch dangerous activities? What resources do you have in place to address those or alert your team about those? How do you also reduce the risk of any unauthorized users just being able to gain access to things that they shouldn't? What alerting processes, what types of policies do you have in place to reduce that risk? And then you have your malicious and suspicious files. That happens a lot with phishing, with email usage. Do you have a process in place? Do you have resources in place to reduce the risk of, even if somebody does click on a dangerous file, that they're not being given too broad of access that it would cause great damage to the district, or that if they click on that, it's able to be quarantined, identified, and that risk cut off very, very quickly. And of course, for many of these things, you have the paid versions of these resources, which are often based on organizational size. Larger districts have larger costs, smaller districts have smaller costs, but there are also a lot of low stress and no cost versions of these assessments that you can use as your first kind of just getting an understanding or the lay of the land for your district and for your IT operations. Some of those that we utilize are the Fortinet CTAP, which is really great as a network and security tool. It helps you to identify some of the resources connected to your network, some of the resources that you use within your district that touch on the internet. Helps you to identify certain things that could be a vulnerability. We've done it in the past where folks didn't realize that printers had access to a certain aspect of their network, which if there was someone, let's say a bad actor, who was able to see that, get in and take advantage of that accessibility, it could cause problems. So for no cost at all, your IT team is alerted to a vulnerability. They can easily change those policies, those rules, those requirements as it relates to the printers. So that way all that stuff is directed somewhere else and reduces your exposure.